All right, welcome everyone. This is Jordan Berry, instructional designer at HACC, and this video is designed to give you an overview of how to secure your Zoom meetings to limit and prevent Zoom bombing. So Zoom offers a number of tools that we can use to add extra layers of security to our sessions. There are options that we can set up and use before our meetings, as well as a number of tools we can make use of while in a live session itself. And we'll look at all of those options to help you minimize any potential disruptions. So the first thing that we'll do is log into our Zoom account through MyHACC, and this is the first way to add a layer of security as we'll be working within HACC's organization. And that means that we can set our meetings so that only those with HACC credentials can access our meetings. This means that students must also log in to Zoom using their HACC ID account. So please encourage them to also log into Zoom through the single sign-on by way of the MyHACC portal. First, we're going to look at some of the setting options that Zoom has built in that are going to apply to all the future Zoom meetings that you schedule moving forward. So we're going to click on the settings button here on the left sidebar. And we're going to scroll down to the area that says only authenticated users can join meetings, and we're going to turn that on. What this means is that only those with Zoom accounts can access your meetings. So anyone that tries to access that isn't registered with Zoom won't be able to get in. And if you'd like, you can edit what the students will be able to see when they attempt to sign in, and you can remind them to log in with their HACC credentials. Additionally, you want to make sure that the next option down is selected, that only authenticated users can join meetings from the web client as well. So we'll scroll down a little bit further. The next option we're going to look at is the option that requires participants to enter a password before they can enter your session. So you're going to click on this option here, and every time you create a new meeting, you'll be prompted to create a password or use one of Zoom's automatically generated passwords and send that out to students so that they can enter the session when they click on the link. So scrolling down, we'll also take a look at this option where you can mute participants upon entry. So as soon as participants or students enter your session, they'll be automatically muted, and you'll have to unmute them to allow them access to their microphone. So scroll down and we'll take a look at the in-meeting basic options that you have available to you as well. So the screen sharing option. This is set on by default, which is a good thing, and you may want to select it so that only hosts can share their screens until you give the participants access to do so. This is just another way to prevent people from coming into your Zoom session and sharing their screen without permission. All right, we'll scroll down further. And the next option we'll look at is the waiting room option, and you'll want to turn this on. So when the waiting room option is selected, participants who enter the Zoom session will be sent automatically to a waiting room outside of the main session area. And you could admit or deny any individual that you see waiting in the waiting room. Now, one great option that's built into this is this one here, which we'll select, which states guest participants will only be sent into the waiting room. What this means is if students have signed into their Zoom accounts through MyHACC using their single sign-on, they won't be sent to the waiting room. They'll bypass the waiting room and they'll go straight into your Zoom session, which is great. Anybody who is not signed in with their HACC account will have to wait in the waiting room until you admit them. And it's a good way for you to vet or to filter out anybody who doesn't belong in the session. And we'll look at how that appears once you're in the Zoom session itself. So we're going to hit save to keep that option. So those are some of the setting options that we can apply that will universally affect all of our meetings moving forward. Now, there are a few more things that we can do. If we head back to the meetings area, we can look at some of the options that we can build into each specific meeting when we create a new one. So we'll schedule a new meeting. The first thing we're going to look at is the meeting ID area. And one thing you want to avoid doing is sending out your personal meeting ID number. The reason for this is Zoom bombers can easily just plug in 10 random numbers into their Zoom session, and if your session is not locked down, they can easily hop into it and cause a disruption. So for each meeting, you want to have these meeting IDs be unique and be generated automatically. Also, we'll see that because of the settings we enacted earlier, we're required to set a meeting password, and one is automatically generated, but we can change this if we'd like. So remember to send this out to students as well so that they can access the meeting. We'll scroll down further here and we'll see that the meeting options here are set. Participants are muted upon entry, that our waiting room is enabled. We can also select that only authenticated users can join. So again, those with Zoom accounts. And that's it. We can hit save. And now we'll go and take a look at what options we have available to us to prevent Zoom bombing within the Zoom session itself. So we'll start the meeting. So now that we're in our Zoom session, we have a number of tools available to us to protect us from Zoom bombers or disruptions. First, we're going to see how those settings that we applied earlier work. We'll have a participant attempt to join who was not invited to our Zoom session, and we'll see what happens. So you'll see we have one person waiting in our waiting room, and this is because they're a guest. They're not signed into their Zoom account, they're not logged in with their MyHACC credentials, nor were they invited to the meeting. So we have an option here. If we hover over their name, we can either admit them into the session or remove them. If we remove them, a pop-up will appear that'll let us know if we kick them out of this session, they will not be able to rejoin this meeting again. If we hit OK, they'll disappear forever. So we'll cancel out of that for now. If we admit them, they'll pop into the main area here and they'll be able to access the main Zoom session. Now for students who have logged into their Zoom account using their single sign-on through the MyHACC Portal, they'll automatically be able to bypass this waiting room feature and will jump right into the main session. So this is why it's important to have all the students log into their Zoom accounts through their MyHACC. Now we're going to look at a new feature that Zoom has added, and you'll see at the bottom of our taskbar we have an option for security, which gives us a number of tools we can use to protect our session. So we'll click Security, and the first thing we'll look at is Lock Meeting. Now what this does is prevent anybody else from entering the meeting, whether or not they've been invited. So just be aware that once you click this and lock down this session, nobody else will be able to enter. So the next option we're going to look at is the Allow Participants To section. And you'll see that because we had enabled those settings earlier, students are not able to screen share. And we can allow them now by clicking this and giving them the option to share at any time. We can also disallow them from chatting or renaming themselves in this section. And we can turn off screen share whenever we want by clicking this. Another feature that's available here is the Remove Participant option. So if we have an individual that gets into our session and they're causing a disruption, we can click Remove Participant, and we'll see on the right-hand side our Manage Participants section has changed. So this is where we're going to pick the individual that we are going to remove. Now I only have one person in the session, but we'll see what happens when we click this button. So we'll click the Remove button next to the individual's name, and it will kick them out of the session. Again, it will prompt us and tell us that they will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting if we kick them out. So now they're gone. And that is an overview of the main tools that Zoom has available to you that'll help you add layers of security to your Zoom sessions and prevent Zoom bombing. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.